Welcome to Shatter.
You'll get intimacy when I feel like it, she said. Then she looked down at her phone, thumb scrolling like I hadn't just been cut open in the middle of our own kitchen. No pause. No reaction. Just that dead tone of someone who knew exactly what they were doing and didn't care. I stood there for maybe 3 seconds. Didn't speak. Didn't move. Didn't even breathe. And then something strange happened. I smiled. Not the kind of smile you give when you're amused. The kind you give when you finally understand. When the fog lifts, and you realize the fight is over, because it never really started. She wasn't negotiating. She was declaring. And I wasn't a husband in that moment. I was background noise. So I walked out. Not angrily. Not in protest. Just done. Quietly done. That's the part she didn't notice. That night, she climbed into bed like nothing happened. Rolled away from me. As always. Her back had become my home. And the silence between us had become my lullaby. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, not replaying her words. But everything that came before them, the slow erosion, the invisible retreat, the way she stopped laughing at my jokes, the way her eyes never lingered anymore, the way physical touch became a favor instead of instinct. Looking back, she'd been saying that sentence for years. She just finally found the words to match it. I didn't sleep. Not because I was heartbroken. Because I was calculating. In the morning, I woke up first. Didn't make her coffee. Didn't kiss her forehead. Didn't say a word. Just left the house like a ghost wearing my skin. I sat in the car for a long time, engine off. Staring at the dashboard, replaying everything. The warnings were there. The decline. The arrogance. The shift from love to leverage. She thought I was too comfortable to walk. Too dependent to detach. Too loyal to leave. She confused my silence for surrender. And now she'd pay for that mistake, slowly. Not through screaming matches. Not through slammed doors or drunken texts. But through absence. Through stillness. Through the calm dismantling of every illusion she ever had about me. She thought intimacy was hers to give. She was about to find out what it felt like when someone takes everything back. And the worst part for her? She wouldn't even realize it. Until I was already gone. She didn't notice it the first day. Maybe not even the second. At breakfast, I sat across from her, reading the news on my phone. No eye contact. No, how'd you sleep? No asking if she wanted oat milk in her coffee, like I used to. She talked about something, her manager, a canceled meeting, someone's birthday. I nodded once. Didn't reply. Didn't smile. She kept watching me, waiting for a flicker of irritation, sarcasm, curiosity, anything. But I gave her nothing. That night, I came home late. I'd gone to the gym after work, then taken the long way home just to stretch the silence a little further. She was on the couch in one of those satin robes I hadn't seen in over a year. Hair curled. Wine poured. Movie paused on the home screen like she was setting a stage. "You're late," she said casually, like she hadn't rehearsed the line twice in her head. "Didn't realize we were on a clock," I replied, walking to the kitchen. There was a moment, just a half second, where I saw it hit her. The shift. The balance tipping the other way. I cleaned up the mess she'd left behind, wrappers, a half-empty takeout box, without a word. No sighing. No guilt trip. Just silence. She followed me into the kitchen. "You okay?" "Better than I've been in a long time." And I meant it. I walked past her, upstairs, shut the door behind me. No anger. No drama. Just the quiet sound of detachment. The next day, she tried harder. Put on lipstick before I got home. Set the table like she used to. Made pasta from scratch. Even lit a candle. I sat. Ate. Thanked her. Didn't compliment the food. And when she reached across the table, fingers brushing mine, I pulled my hand back like I hadn't even noticed. She froze. Then looked away. It was working. She had built an entire identity around being the one in control. Withholding affection when it suited her. Creating distance, then blaming me for not bridging it. Now she was starting to feel what I had lived in for years. That quiet ache of not being seen. Of being next to someone who made you feel invisible. The next few days were a study in subtle panic. She started sending texts during the day. "Hope your morning's going okay. What do you want for dinner? Miss you." I didn't ignore them. I replied, but with cold precision. "Thanks. Doesn't matter. All good." Each response was a scalpel. Each word a mirror. I was becoming everything she once accused me of being. Distant, indifferent, absent. Only now, it was by design. And it scared her. Because she thought I was too safe to become a threat. Too tame to disappear. Too quiet to be dangerous. She forgot. A man doesn't need to yell to make you feel the loss. Sometimes all he has to do is stop waiting. And that's exactly what I had done. I knew the exact moment she started to panic. It wasn't dramatic. No shouting. No begging. It was quiet. It was subtle. But it was there. She called me at work. Middle of the day. Something she never did. Her voice was light, forced. Just wanted to hear your voice, she said. I paused. Everything okay? Yeah. Just missed you, I guess. I didn't say it back. Just let the silence stretch until she filled it with a nervous laugh. Anyway, I'll let you go. She hung up before I could. That's how I knew it wasn't about affection. It was about fear. Fear of the distance she thought she created on her terms, turning into something she couldn't control. She was slipping, and she felt it. That night, I got home late again. Deliberately. She was waiting in the living room, dressed up like we had dinner plans. We didn't. There's this new place I've been wanting to try, she said quickly. Figured we could go, maybe just talk a bit. I took off my jacket. Calm. Steady. I already ate. I watched her face fall, just a fraction. She masked it quickly. Oh, that's fine. Maybe tomorrow then. I nodded. Maybe. Then I walked upstairs. She didn't follow. 2 days later, I started rerouting my salary. Private account. Clean. Discreet. No password shared. No notifications. She wouldn't notice. Not yet. I canceled a few things. Streaming services. Subscriptions. A couple of automatic payments she never paid attention to. The Netflix login failed at night. She sighed loudly from the living room. Something's wrong with the account. I didn't answer. She waited. Waited for me to fix it. I didn't. It was starting. The unraveling. The slow decay of a structure she thought was permanent. She had built a castle on convenience. And I was pulling out the bricks, one by one, without raising my voice. Without slamming a single door. I started going to the gym more. Buying better clothes. Sleeping better. She noticed. Of course she noticed. You've been out a lot lately. Yeah. With who? Just people. The word hit her like a slap. Not because of what it said, but because of what it didn't. She used to be the center of my orbit. Now, she was just background noise. And for a woman who thrived on control, that silence was deafening. A week later, I caught her looking through my laundry. She tried to act casual, folding shirts that didn't need folding, pretending not to check the receipts in my pockets. I didn't call her out. Didn't flinch. Let her wonder. Let her drown in the ambiguity she once weaponized. This wasn't revenge. It was revelation. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I was simply done. And the scariest man in the world is the one who loves you no more, but still sleeps on the other side of the bed. Without a word. I didn't expect to find anything that night. But I checked anyway. She had left her phone on the charger in the kitchen, screen dimmed. She was upstairs, probably in bed, pretending to sleep. I wasn't snooping. Not in the emotional, desperate sense. I was documenting. Years of loyalty. Of carrying the weight. Of letting her set the rules. And I needed to know. Was it just ego? Or was there someone else? So I picked up the phone. Locked. Face ID. But I knew her code. She never changed it. She never had to. Until now. It opened. Messages looked clean. Too clean. A few threads with friends, her sister, old coworkers. But something didn't sit right. I checked the app screen. Scrolled. Then paused. A fake calculator. I tapped it. Entered 4 zeros. And there it was. The second inbox. A hidden messaging app. The most recent thread. No name. Just a phone number. The messages weren't graphic. They were worse. He's still so clueless. I could be on the moon and he wouldn't notice. We barely talk anymore. It's like I'm single in this house. You make me feel alive again. The last one hit hardest. Not because she said it, but because I remembered saying it about her, years ago. Back when we were still real. I scrolled up. Photos. Times. Dates that matched the nights she claimed she was working late, or at yoga. One message stood out. It was from her. Don't text me until after 11. He goes to bed early. That's when it stopped being theory. That's when I stopped seeing her as my wife. I put the phone down. Didn't confront her. Didn't wake her. Didn't scream. Instead, I opened my laptop. Created a new folder. Named it Exit. Inside it, I started dropping files. Screenshots. Messages. Evidence. Not to threaten her. Not to blackmail her. Just to have it ready. Because when I leave, I don't argue. I don't explain. I don't ask for closure. I leave like I was never there to begin with. She still doesn't know I saw it. Still walks around like the queen of the house she burned down. But the air's shifting. She can feel it. The way I look through her now. The way I speak in short, flat answers. The way I don't reach. Don't ask. Don't need. She tried to flirt the next night. Put on the dress I once said made her look dangerous. Poured wine. Dimmed the lights. Remember this? She said, voice soft, like a memory. I nodded. Yeah, I remember everything. Then I took my glass, finished it, and left the room. She sat there in silence. No music. No TV. Just a reflection in the black screen. She was starting to realize something was coming. She just didn't know what. And that's what made it perfect. She started watching me like I was a stranger. Not in anger. Not even in suspicion. In fear. Because something had shifted. Not suddenly, but deep. And she could feel it. Not in the things I said, but in the things I didn't. She started hovering more. Asking where I was going. Who I was texting. Why I was so distant. Distant? She used that word like she hadn't spent the last year building a wall brick by brick between us. You've been weird lately, she said one night while brushing her hair in the mirror. I shrugged. Maybe I'm just seeing things clearer now. She paused. Looked at me through the glass. But I was already walking out of the room. She didn't follow. The next day, I booked a consultation with a divorce attorney. Just a conversation. Just information. But it felt like oxygen. Felt like grabbing the wheel of my own life again. I didn't need revenge. Didn't want a scene. I just wanted freedom. She tried again the following night. Cooked dinner. Lit candles. Played music we used to listen to back when she still looked at me like I mattered. This feels nice, she said halfway through the meal. I nodded. It does. Then I stood, took my plate to the sink, and started cleaning. Didn't kiss her. Didn't thank her. Just let the moment die the same way she let our marriage die. Slowly. Quietly. While pretending nothing was wrong. That night, I logged into our shared bank account and transferred my half into a new one. Legally. Carefully. Strategically. She wouldn't notice yet. Not until she needed something. Not until the power she once wielded with a smile started slipping through her fingers. I changed the password on the Netflix account. She texted me at 10:47 p.m. Hey, did we get logged out? I waited an hour. Then replied. I guess we did. She didn't answer. 2 days later, she brought up the idea of a getaway. A weekend trip. Just the two of us. Clear our heads, she said. I stared at her. This woman who used to ration touch like a currency. Who once told me intimacy was earned. Now wanting to reconnect. Maybe, I said. She smiled. But what she didn't know was that I had already disconnected. Completely. She thought we were in a rough patch. She didn't know we were in the final act. And I wasn't trying to save the story. I was writing the ending. She left her laptop open. I don't believe in coincidence. Especially not when someone's been hiding things in plain sight for months. It was late. She was in the shower. The screen glowed in the dark room like it was calling me. I sat down. Didn't hesitate. Didn't breathe. The browser was still open. A hidden email tab. Not her usual one. Not the one she used for bills, subscriptions, or family. No. This one was different. New. Private. The inbox was small. But not empty. The most recent email was a hotel confirmation. Downtown. Saturday night. 2 guests. King Suite. No message. No explanation. Just a date and time. I clicked the previous thread. It was him. Name. Ryan. Corporate email. Apparently someone from her job. Or a partner company. The tone wasn't romantic. It was worse. Casual. Familiar. Efficient. They'd done this before. Usual spot? I'll leave first this time. Delete the trail. That last one made me laugh. Delete the trail. She thought she was careful. She thought I was blind. She had no idea I already had screenshots, saved messages, phone records. A folder labeled Exit that was now thick with evidence. I closed the laptop before she came out. Turned off the light. Slid into bed like I hadn't just read the obituary of our marriage. She climbed in next to me, towel in her hair, skin warm, soft. She leaned in closer than she had in weeks. Almost instinctively. And I didn't move. She noticed. Paused. Then whispered, "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah. Just tired." She settled into the pillow, her back to me. Again. But this time, I wasn't staring at the ceiling. I was counting down. Not to a fight. Not to some dramatic confrontation. to something much colder, much quieter. A reset. The next morning, I booked a second consultation, not just with a lawyer, with a financial advisor, because the game she thought she was playing wasn't chess. It was checkmate, and I already had my hand on the king. She still thought I was distant because I was wounded, still believed I was pulling away to punish her. She hadn't even begun to understand. This wasn't distance. This was departure. And when I go, I don't leave breadcrumbs. I erase the whole path. She wanted a man who wouldn't challenge her, who'd sit quietly while she played both sides. What she got was a man who let her believe she was safe, just long enough to burn every bridge behind her. The next move would be mine, and it would be final. Saturday came. She wore perfume, the one she used to save for special occasions, or for someone else's attention. She told me she had a wellness event, said it with a straight face while sliding her suitcase into the trunk. I nodded, didn't ask questions, didn't wish her a good time. She leaned in for a quick kiss. I gave her my cheek. She didn't press it. As she drove off, I stood in the doorway and watched her taillights disappear down the street. Then I went inside, locked the door behind me, and opened the folder labeled Exit. Everything was ready. Bank transfers confirmed. Joint accounts frozen. Subscription services cut. Her car lease, under my name, terminated by Monday. She just didn't know it yet. She arrived at the hotel by 4 p.m. I knew, because I had the location ping. The same Bluetooth tracker she kept ignoring under the passenger seat. She thought I was blind. I was watching the entire time. She didn't check in alone. He arrived 7 minutes after her. I watched the timestamp. Room 814. King Suite. They didn't leave until morning. I didn't show up. I didn't need to. Let her enjoy her night. Let her feel clever. Let her feel untouchable. Because that's what makes the fall hit harder, when it comes from above. The next day, while she was still sipping coffee with him in bed, I delivered everything. Digital package. One email. To her. To him. And because I believe in full exposure. To HR. Their boss. And his wife. No commentary. No subject line. Just attachments. Screenshots. Emails. The hotel receipt. Photos. Silence followed. For about 3 hours. Then came the texts. Then the calls. Then the emails. All from her. What the hell did you do? We need to talk. This is insane. You're ruining lives. No. She did that. I just turned on the lights. By the time she got home, the locks had already been changed. Her name removed from every shared document. The keycard to the apartment? Useless. Her suitcase? Still in the trunk. She stood outside ringing the bell for 6 straight minutes. I watched her on the camera. Didn't move. Didn't blink. Then I answered through the intercom. My voice calm. Measured. You said I'd get intimacy when you felt like it. Turns out, I don't feel like it anymore. She froze. Mouth open. Eyes wide. Then she started pounding on the door. Screaming my name. Calling me a coward. A liar. A monster. Funny. That's what I used to feel like. Living with her. She stood there until the neighbors came out. Until her pride caught up to her. Until she realized. I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't sulking. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was already gone. And she couldn't follow. Because the door she slammed shut on me months ago. I finally locked it from the other side. She didn't go back to the hotel. Didn't run to him. Didn't have anywhere left to go. The next day, I got a message from a mutual friend. She's staying with her sister. Looks bad. I didn't reply. By Monday morning, the divorce papers were served. Official. Signed. Delivered to her office. She called. I let it ring. Then again. Then a third time, this time from a different number. I blocked both. Later that night, she emailed. Please. Just talk to me. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. You're overreacting. There it was. The spin. The rewrite. The gaslight. Overreacting? I gave her silence. Freedom. Patience. She gave me rules. Dead stares. And a man in a hotel room. She followed up the next day with a longer message. This one was less defensive. More desperate. I messed up. I know that. But what we had, it was real. Please don't erase everything. Erase everything? She'd erased me years ago. I just finally gave her the same treatment. With precision. She tried the sympathy angle next. I've lost everything. My job's on the line. His wife is suing. I don't know where to go from here. And that's when I knew she'd finally felt it. The burn. The weight. The reality she thought she'd always outrun. He ghosted her. Of course he did. They always do. There's no fantasy in fallout. Just cleanup. And consequences. She went from confident to broken in 4 days. But I didn't watch it happen. Didn't feed off it. Didn't enjoy it. I just disconnected. I moved into a new place, clean walls, fresh keys, zero memories. Reopened my old savings account. Started building something again. Something that belonged only to me. I told no one where I lived. No forwarding address. No trail. She tried once more. Showed up at my gym. Waited by the front desk. Asked the staff if I was still a member. They told her I'd canceled the membership 2 days earlier. I hadn't. But I tipped the manager $50 to say I did. When I finally ran into her, by accident, at a coffee shop. She looked smaller. Not physically. Just hollow. She approached. "Hi," she said, tentative. I nodded. "Hey." She stared at me for a moment, eyes scanning, looking for cracks. "Can we talk?" I smiled politely. "We already did." Then I picked up my coffee, walked out into the light. And didn't look back. Because the final stage of detachment isn't rage. It's peace. And I had all of it. While she sat in the ruins of everything she thought she controlled. Weeks passed. No more calls. No more emails. The silence she once weaponized. Now wrapped around her like a noose. She stopped trying to contact me. Or maybe she just ran out of ways to reach a man who no longer existed in her world. Mutual friends kept their distance. They knew. Some picked sides. Others pretended not to know anything. But truth has a way of leaking through cracks. Especially the kind backed by screenshots. One day, I got a message from his wife. Just 2 words. "Thank you." That was it. No drama. No questions. Just quiet recognition. I heard she filed for divorce. Got full custody. Took half his assets. He didn't last long after that. Left the city. Deleted social media. Disappeared into whatever corner cowards go to when the world stops clapping. And her? She moved into a 1-bedroom near her sister's place. Sold her bags. Closed the business account she once bragged about building independently. She was starting over. But not in a fresh start way. In a salvage what's left kind of way. Meanwhile, I was thriving. New apartment. New gym. New morning routine. I wasn't chasing anything. I wasn't even dating. I was just living. And for the first time in years, I felt like a man again. Not a placeholder. Not a provider to be tolerated. A man. With peace. With clarity. One day, I got a handwritten letter. No return address. Just my name and her handwriting. Inside. Apologies. Pages of them. The classic phrases. I didn't appreciate what I had. You were always better to me than I was to you. I missed the version of me I was with you. That one made me pause. Not because it hurt. Because it told me everything I needed to know. She didn't miss me. She missed her own reflection in my loyalty. She missed the safety net. The pedestal. The man who used to carry her through every emotional storm. She missed being adored. Without earning it. I put the letter back in the envelope. And dropped it in the trash. Didn't reread it. Didn't respond. Because when a man truly moves on it, it's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's final. She thought I'd be angry forever. Thought I'd keep orbiting her gravity. She didn't understand. That indifference is colder than hate. And I was ice. She saw me again 3 months later. I was standing outside a bookstore, talking to someone. A woman. New. Bright smile, kind eyes. She laughed at something I said and touched my arm. I didn't notice my ex at first. But she noticed me. She always did, when I wasn't looking. She walked past, slower than necessary. Wearing sunglasses on a cloudy day. Her hair tied back. Like she wasn't trying, but she was. I turned, saw her, and nodded once. She hesitated, then approached. Alone. Hollow. Hi, she said. Voice small. Like it hadn't commanded the tempo of my life for years. Hey. I didn't flinch. Didn't smile. Didn't look past her like I used to, searching for the version of her I married. There was nothing to find. That your friend? She asked, eyeing the woman behind me. I nodded. Something like that. Silence. You look good. I did. Because peace looks better than exhaustion. Thanks, I said. She swallowed hard. I think about everything a lot. What I did. What I ruined. I said nothing. Not out of cruelty. Out of discipline. I thought I had time, she added. Thought you'd always be there. I looked her dead in the eye. You said I'd get affection when you felt like it. Turns out, I stopped feeling too. That was the moment. No shouting. No tearful climax. Just truth. And the sound of a door that would never open again. She nodded slowly, blinking fast. Her voice cracked, but she caught it. I was selfish, she whispered. I wanted options. I thought keeping you half-hurt was safer than being alone. You were wrong, I said simply. Then I turned back to the woman I was with. Laughed at something she said. Walked with her down the street, side by side. I didn't look back. Not once. Because the final break doesn't come with rage. It comes with silence. And distance. In the deep, unshakable knowing. That you were enough. She just wasn't worthy of it. She played for control. She gambled loyalty for attention. She weaponized affection like it was currency. And in the end, she lost everything. While I walked away clean. No scars. No regrets. Just freedom. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's disappearance. And by the time she realized that, I was already a ghost. Gone. For good.